Ngā waka, ngā awa, ngā mauna o te matu. Tēnā koutou, tēnā hui hui tātou katoa. Rā rangatira mā, tātou te whare wānanga, nau mai, haere mai, ki tēnei kauhau whakahirehere. Nā reira, e te whakamanenga, tēnā rā tātou katoa. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to welcome you to this inaugural professorial lecture for this evening's guest, Professor David Bainbridge. David received his bachelor's degree in computer science from the University of Edinburgh in 1991, and the following 2 years he worked in the area of computer-aided design and computer-aided manufacturing as a research engineer in London. In 1993, David made the move to New Zealand after being awarded a Commonwealth scholarship to undertake a PhD at the University of Canterbury. There he studied the problem of optical music recognition. In 1996, David joined the Department of Computer Science at the University of Waikato, completed his PhD a year later. He was promoted successively to senior lecturer, associate professor in 2009, and made a full professor earlier this year. Since 2007, David has led the Digital Library Research Group, taking over from Professor Ian Whitten, who founded the group in 1995. The Digital Library project at Waikato has a strong open source focus, the best example of which is the Greenstone project. Greenstone is a software tool with the aim of empowering users, particularly in universities, libraries, and other public service institutions, to build their own digital libraries. It's used extensively around the world in more than 70 countries, with uses ranging from the University of Chicago's collection of Chopin to documents related to the state of HIV and AIDS in Rwanda. His work with Greenstone has seen David collaborate with several United Nations agencies, the BBC, and various national and regional libraries. In 2004, the Greenstone research team received the prestigious NAMO Award for its IT development for humanitarian aid. In his time at Waikato, David has continued to broaden his interest in digital media while retaining a particular emphasis on music. His research focuses on the boundary between algorithmic content analysis, which is inevitably error-prone, and human-computer interaction in online information systems. The digital musical library system Meldex illustrates some of the ideas he is exploring in the musical domain, including the ability to retrieve songs by humming part of the tune. An interesting take on the oldest musician's joke in the book. You hum a few bars and I'll play along. David has published in the areas of image processing, music information retrieval, digital libraries, human-computer interaction, spatial hypermedia, digital humanities, data compression, and text mining. So, ladies and gentlemen, will you please join me in welcoming to the podium to give his inaugural professorial lecture, Professor David Bainbridge.
So thank you, Vice-Chancellor, for that introduction. So the premise for my talk today is, if Mozart was alive today, what kind of software would he be running on his laptop? What kind of apps would he have? So here we have Mozart here. So for the purposes of my talk, I need to take some artistic license, really, and maybe the kind of Mozart I've got in mind is more like this. So this is from Amadeus. So if you think of that effervescent, larger-than-life character portrayed in that movie, that's kind of the musician I have in mind for some of the demos I'm going to show you, or perhaps even this chap here. That's Elton John, if you can't quite recognize him with the wig at a live concert, again playing homage to Mozart. So I've structured my talk around 3 parts of the day for Mozart. In the morning, he's going to be composing at home. In the afternoon, it's off to rehearsals, and in the evening, he's going to be at a Viennese coffee shop unwinding. So I need to update that a little bit, of course, as well. So, I mean, they do have the Viennese coffee shops, but I'm thinking of a cafe. I'm thinking of a cafe with Wi-Fi, okay? He's going to be online, kind of playing a bit of a musical game, having some fun, hopefully. Now, I've chosen these 3 different areas because each of them uses a different form of music. So in the first area, composing, I'm actually thinking of audio, just playing the piano, getting the audio recorded, singing, and getting the information in. So not so much about writing music notation. This composing is direct audio in. In the afternoon at his rehearsals, that's where we're going to run a digital music stand and look at sheet music and think about that sort of side of things. And then at the cafe, he's going to be playing a game. The best way of describing it is it's like Piano Hero. So if you know Guitar Hero, he's going to be playing a bit of Piano Hero. Okay, so each one of these comes with a demo, fingers crossed, and things like that. I have an overview, a sort of picture of how this all fits together for you. So here we have Mozart with his laptop here, and there are 3 areas of computer science that my research comes from, and it all comes to bear in these demonstrations. So music information retrieval is where that content analysis happens. You're looking at images of music, working out where the staff lines are, the notes, the key, working out those kinds of things. With audio, you may be segmenting things into notes, looking at frequency analysis, working out the pitches, and determining what the notes being played are. So that's music information retrieval. Digital libraries is about organizing content, so let's put music content into digital libraries, browsing, searching, and things like that. And the last thing is the user interface, human-computer interaction. How do you design these things so they function well for people, given that back here, when you do content analysis, the computer isn't going to get it right every time. So you have to find ways of softening some of the edges of that. And I hope you'll see these 3 areas come through in the demonstrations that I'm going to show you. So we'll go off and we'll go into composing first. Now, for composing music, we already had a project called Expedite. It's spatial hypermedia. Its inventor is Rob Askin. And he was working with text and images and vector graphics and things like that. So I got interested and involved with what would audio look like if you represented it in this world. So this is Expedite running here. The name's a little bit of a joke. If Aphrodite is the goddess of love, then let Expedite be the goddess of getting things done. So is the name of that software. So, in fact, I've been already running Expedite from the beginning. The presentation has been done in Expedite. So down here, if I come down here and click on the presentation link, there's my presentation from before. If I click in white space, I come back, and I'll click into here. I'm just going to show you a little bit about Expedite first, so you can then understand how the audio and music content has been added in to enrich things. So here are the sort of the 3 main areas that Expedite already supported. So if I come into text and click on here, you can write text and change the size and the color and the font. Wherever the mouse cursor is, when you start typing, you get your words. You can pick it up and put it down. You can make copies and things like this. So it's a great authoring tool. There's a lot more you can do with it, but sort of creating sort of mind maps and developing ideas this way first and then gradually turning them into documents. This is sort of the workflow that Rob has imagined for this spatial hypermedia system. So over in graphics, again, I've sort of put some things in already here. We have different shapes and lines. You can sort of draw your lines here. You pick things up and move them around and so on. Okay, so there's some vector graphics and raster images. So of course, I've put in some Mozart pictures today. Okay, so they're the main building blocks of Expedite, and you can create PowerPoint presentation-like things. You can write papers. I've published a couple of papers writing the article first in Expedite and then generating the PDF from it and things like that. The big thing that Expedite brings and why I got interested in this project is that it has this idea of uniform interaction across all those elements. So when I come back into text, there are ways of making text bigger and smaller. Okay? And with this uniform interaction, if I come back to the graphics, if I do the same thing over the rectangle, the exact same interaction makes it bigger and smaller. Okay? And if I come over to the images, I'll come down to here, same thing, bigger and smaller. So it has this very sort of strong model of how interaction should work. And remember, the challenge for me is to think about how audio might fit into this. I want to kind of keep the same kind of ideas that have been developed and support audio as a primary element in the system. So I've got one little extra thing in here that I would like to sort of show, which is of the many things you can do, if I kind of right-click and drag over this, it copies it out for you there. Not a very interesting fragment, but there we go. Okay, and then I'm just going to delete that. Okay, so that copying, you can sort of, if I came into images, if I do that same right dragging, that's copying that, and I've just got myself a little excerpt of it and things like that. Okay, that's going to be important for the music. That will come into play. So let's go to adding to music. So here is, again, I'm still running Expedite because it's already got the audio abilities built in and switched on. And we kind of give you what I've called the music studio. So we have sort of some new elements around the side here. So these are all built out of Expedite. We actually invented something called interactive widgets, which turned out to be a very useful and powerful idea to sort of support a lot of the music content creation, but also the audio as well. So I think I've been talking a little bit too long. Let's just find some audio and play it and sort of get onto it. So I'm going to do a text search first. I'm going to build up to things. So here's me searching for good. There's a song called Good Times in this set of pages that I have here. So I pick that up and put it into text. Then off it goes doing a search. So it's searching through all the pages that I've got. There's over 1,000 things like that sort of in this particular set, the My Music set. So down here, let's go to Good Times track. So here's some audio. Okay, so this is an audio track that's being worked on. So we've got 5 different tracks here. You can come along, and if you sort of, let's come up, should we go up to the lead vocals? Play here.
She was the finest thing that
So that's that track. The main play up here is going to play all the tracks together. So let's hear that. So we'll see the organ coming in a minute down the bottom, Hammond organ.
just begging to please. I said, hey, baby.
Do you want to get up to the next guitar? Too late, we're gonna, okay. So here, yep. Okay, so that's how you sort of start to build up audio. You take MP3 files, drag them in, drop them on it, and it comes up with these audio sort of wave players, and you can move them around and copy them, and in a little while I'll take a cut and a copy out of it, just like text. So we're trying to build all this and give it the same kind of abilities as before. So let's come back to my sort of main page for the music studio, and just click around a little bit more. So over here, I've got my songs that I've been developing over time, sort of alphabetically organized by title. When I say my songs, okay? So for the purpose of the evaluation, there wasn't time for people to create songs from scratch. So we said, here's a set of well-known songs. Imagine you've been developing them over time, and then we gave them certain tasks to do to see how well they could understand the interface and operate it. So you can browse by title, but also down here, browse by lyrics and things, and you sort of get into these, click on these, and see the songs. So, yep, so we've got browsing around to find things like that. Let's go into this unnamed pop song. Oh, I was here practicing before. I'm just going to delete these. These shouldn't be here. Let me just delete those. I'll just be a bit easier if I do it in front of me here. You know what? I'll just maybe do that. A bit easier. Just thought of that. Okay, so play. Let's hear. This is the song. I mean, if you've been reading the lyrics down here, you'll sort of work out what it is. But here's the song so far. And I've had this musical moment. I've got this addition that I'd like to add to the song to sort of try and develop it and get it to the next stage. So there's record over here. It gives me a little countdown. It's going to give me a 3-second countdown. So. This is to spare you hearing me sing. Now, I'll be singing a bit later on, but I've managed to cut it down to just one. Okay, so here we are. This is me. Now, I can sort of see there's a bit of click. Let's have a listen to that. Okay, so let's use that dragging thing, right? I just want this bit here, right? Let's grab that out. Okay, so now we've got that. We can go off and make that disappear. And let's move this up to here. So here's the audio. If we want to over here, I can do beat detection. So we look at the spectrum in the signal. We look for note onsets and look for patterns. So you can go through and sort of find the beats. So on the drums, it's quite easy to find and things like this. So the idea is you can use this and you can start lining up your audio and things like this. I've chosen this one just for the sake of speed. It turns out you can stick chickas into this song just about anywhere, and it kind of makes sense. Okay, so yep, so here we have four little chickas going on in there. Let's see how the song's developed. Yeah. So when we started this project, one of the, sort of the goals was, it's like, artists have artist sketch pads and they just go out and they get sketching. It's like, we wanted to be able to build the same kind of system for a musician, that kind of sketching feeling, and get things out quickly and so on. So obviously it's just a short demo. I think that chicken was just a little bit early, so I might just move it across there and things like that. Okay, so that's that one there. Last thing I'd like to show in this particular demo is the query by humming. So, it got mentioned in the introduction. We'll go with a live one, see how that goes. So I've got a built-in mic to my laptop here. So there's this song that I'd like to find in my set of files. I'll be interested to see if anyone recognizes it from the singing bit. But here we go. So I start the record query here. I just have to remember which song I'm looking for. Oh, hang on. I have to. Do, 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 do. Right, so it's off searching. This time it's searching musically. And I don't think it's found it, actually. We'll drop in on this one. Oh, no, I was not confident in my own ability. So I sang do, 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 do. So let's have a little listen. So that could have been anywhere in the audio, and it finds it and things like that. But let's just hear the whole piece. So I meant to pause and ask if anyone recognized my singing, but... So there we go. So more than words by Extreme, it's going back a little while. I didn't have any children, for example, when that was a hit, but they're not really connected in any way, are they? Right, okay. So this is kind of demo one, okay? So we've been moving in. I've shown you a few things. There's a lot more that I could show you, but I'd like to move on and talk a little bit about the context of this work, and so we have time for the other two demos as well. So in terms of papers and articles that were written, the starting point for this spatial hypermedia work actually goes back to some digital library work that we did. So towards a digital library of popular music, which we presented at the main digital library conference over in the US. And so that was which had the original query by humming part to it. And then from that, we were contacted by an author writing for Scientific American, and they asked if they could sort of feature it in their seeking better web searches. So we provided some figures and things. So that Meldex system that you heard about in the introduction is written about in there. Moving on to this actual full interactive spatial hypermedia system, Musical Moments is the short version of the title of the paper that we published. And we went through we had diary studies, we equipped musicians with dictaphones and notepads with blank staff lines, and we found out where people were when they had their musical moments and wanted to create songs and jot them down, and we analyzed what they were looking for and what the requirements for the piece of software were. And we were expecting to be out there with mobile devices doing this kind of stuff, but in fact, they were quite happy with the software that they had. And it was more to do with when they got the idea home and they wanted to enrich it and develop it. And when we wrote up the requirements of what it was almost a near match for what the definition of a digital library is, organizing and managing your content over time and things. So this kind of led us to combine the ideas of digital libraries with the spatial hypermedia system here. So let's get back to Mozart on his busy day. So he's been developing some Michael Jackson hits, it would seem, in the morning, and things like that. It's on to the rehearsal. So he goes into town, gets to the concert hall. So this is sheet music. It could be done with orchestras. I'm going to be showing you some piano music here. So here we are, we're running for the first time. This is Greenstone Digital Library. You can put, if you can digitize it or have it already in an online form, you can put it into a Greenstone Digital Library and build it. So you can search and browse around. If I click on titles, there's a sort of bunch of sheet music that I put into it. So let's go searching, shall we? So I'll use search, and we'll go for Mozart. So it's a little bit small on the screen for you to see. So that's searching for Mozart with composer search. So here are the sheet music that we have in this particular digital library, a lot of duets. Where should we go? Let's come down. So the piano sonata in C minor. Let's have a look at this one. I could get a PDF of it, and sort of that's the end of the digital library. It says, here's the PDF, off you go. But the next one over, it's a music stand. And we're going to stay in the digital library, And so the first thing that it wants to do is it's going to say, well, I'm going to give you the sheet music, and it knows how big your display is, so it gives you the biggest piece of sheet music that can comfortably fit on your screen. So this is really kind of more designed for tablets. You can be browsing the digital library, and it's going to come up on the tablet here and things like that. Next thing that's happened is when you've built the digital library, it's used that optical music recognition software that I've been working on. So it's finding staff lines. In this case, we don't need to go very far. You just need to find the staff systems and the staff lines. And it's giving us a little marker down here. This is an interesting point in the sheet music. Okay, so when you're playing music, we all know that that last line of music is a little bit awkward. Okay, I'm going to have to turn the page. So if I turn the page too soon, I'm going to have to remember the rest of the notes, or I might be trying to do it a little bit near the end, and so on. So with the digital music sound, we can help you. So of the sort of two features that I'll show you in this particular demo, the first one is helping you with a page turn. So the idea is that you're playing the music along here. Anywhere in that last line, you can start a page turn. And what's going to happen is it's going to bring it in over the top. Page 2 will be drawn in over the top, and you'll have time to finish playing the rest of the bottom line, and then you can come in at the top here. So I'm going to go hands-free. Okay, let's start the page turn. Okay, so I'm playing the last line here. I've got plenty of time. I can finish playing the last line here. Then I'm up to the start here, playing page 2 through there. Okay. So clearly, for a laptop, you'd probably even want 2-up. So we have different versions of this that we've worked on. So when you do a 2-up for sheet music, you can do page 1 here, page 2 here, and then at any time during page 2, you can bring up page 3 on the left and so on. So this one's having to work a little bit harder, saying, well, if your form factor is like this, then we can still give you assistance, but things, the space a little bit more cramped, and so it's still helpful, but clearly, the timing of the swipes have to sort of match what you're doing. So you do rehearsals and get the timing sorted out and tweak it a little bit. So if you don't want it here, you can move this stuff up and down and things like that. So this is one of those examples. My optical music recognition software, staff detection 99-point-something% accurate. Well, that means that within 100 pages of music, it's going to get it wrong. Okay, so when it sort of says, I think the last staff system is here, you want to be able to come in and change it and say, no, it isn't. It's down here. Okay. You can also type in annotations and notes. So this looks fairly complicated. Let's go with watch fingering. Okay. You can type in notes. This is that expedite idea again. All this kind of typing things in wherever you are. You can pick things up and move them and all the rest of it. So we've deliberately given it that kind of feel there. And also, these annotations now go into the digital library, so they're searchable. So now when you want to bring up a piece of music, you can search for annotations that have these. So you can even write annotations which are just merely for navigation to let you find it again, or it's more to do with the performance and things like that. So I forgot to check which emperor of Austria it was, but somewhere lurking around here, I kind of typed one in a little bit earlier. Yeah. So down here, help me out. It's Franz Joseph II, who was emperor when Mozart first moved to Vienna, and he famously described Mozart's music as having too many notes. So I don't know if you can make it out, but too many notes and 2 exclamation marks there. So you can, if that's what you want to do, you can, and things like that. Okay, so let's head back to the slides. And so we've seen the demo. Let's talk a little bit about some of the work that went on around about this. So the first 2 publications describe the work that I've shown you. The challenge of optical music recognition was the image processing, the sheet music coming into the digital library and connecting it with that kind of work there. And then the actual design of a music stand and working through these things. This is work I did with Tim Bell at Canterbury University. And he was trying it out. He has a band and does gigs at weekends and stuff, so he was trying out this software for us and things like that. Excuse me. So the first 2 articles there are kind of covered off in the demo that I've shown you. This next one here, Beyond the Client-Server Model, Self-Contained Portable Digital Libraries, and so on. So here the idea is you actually install the Greenstone Digital Library server on the tablet. Okay, so I've now got a server running here, and then other people can connect to me and pull the music off them. So walk into rehearsals, conductor, here's all the sheet music that they're going to need for the rehearsal, and then the people sort of sitting around can sort of, well, by the time you've typed in the web address, you can start pulling up the sheet music on your screens as well. So this has been quite a powerful thing. We weren't doing this in the musical context at the time. In fact, what we were doing was thinking about these kinds of computers here. This is one OLPCs, one laptop per child. And so the idea is that you can have a digital library of content on here, and these form a mesh network, and you can visit friends and so on. So we had the idea of beaming documents between the two. There's the International Children's Digital Library is in the public domain, so we built collections in Greenstone on that. And you can visit and view them, and if you like it, you can say, I would like to add that into my digital library. Okay, so it's kind of, it's like checking, you check it out and sort of add it into your digital library. So we call that one perambulating libraries. Because, of course, there used to be mobile libraries that drove around, arrive at your door, or in some parts of the world, there's camels with books strapped to them and turn up, and that's how you get your books in your mobile library. So we kind of looked at those ideas and talked about how they could be mapped in, and then showed a practical demonstration of how it all could go. The last item on the bottom there, realistic books, a bizarre homage to an obsolete medium. This is, again, it wasn't music work that we were doing. This is work I did with Professor Witten and Dr. Lisa Putra, who's up at Auckland now. And here the idea is we've lost a lot by going to web pages with scroll bars. So having pages is kind of a good thing, and PDF gives you that. But having books, having visual clues around your documents that really enforce the idea of a book, you can sort of see the pages to the side. When you do searches, it can show you which pages and where in the book they were. So Veronica's work in this area for her PhD went through and sort of showed how you can make people more effective if you present your digital content through this kind of metaphor. So when you saw the page turn, it really did kind of fold and bend and things like this, and it had the annotation note thing going in it as well. So these are all things that you should bring into your digital music stand. So where's the work at the moment? So I was using some foot pedals. Let me just to do the page turn. So this is the first one. There was a computer mouse that I pulled apart, and that's in here now. And this is my guitar pedal. You wire it all up. You curse a few times and things like that. But in the end, you finally get, when you click, you get mouse clicks, and it can be wired up to do page turns just like that I didn't mean to do. Right. Where am I? So let me just come back. So we were in here, and we had gone to, let me just go to here. So how about the automatic page turner? How about the computers listening to you and following you in the music? So score following is a technique. They use dedicated hardware when they first started looking at this problem, and then desktop machines get fast enough and they can start doing the processing with desktop PCs in the lab. We decided we're digital libraries, we do things in web browsers, so we wanted to find out whether you could do score following in a web browser. So this is kind of work that we're still developing, but the first thing you have to do is, first of all, solve how do you in a web browser access audio and process it and follow a score from someone playing or singing through a web page. So the first thing was to solve the technical problem, and we got there and did that. The next thing was to do some experiments and get some timing around whether or not it's realistic to do this in real time. Because you're running JavaScript in a web browser to do this. This is not your natural environment to do signal processing. So the graph on the right here is showing us that it can be done. So I'll just take you through the numbers. This is showing you sort of percentage time. So this is 0.25 up here. These bars here, which is the score following code, it's running at 0.1. That's like a tenth of a second. For every second of audio that you want to process, you only need a tenth of a second to do the score following work. So that's faster than real time. And the different colored bars are the different browsers. We've got Microsoft Edge, we've got Firefox and Chrome. So Chrome is sort of the most efficient for running this and so on. The other bar over here, this is taking MIDI events and rendering them as audio so you can hear them, sort of also part of what the system needs to do. In fact, you can see that's more expensive. So add the two together, though, you're still running at about a third of a second. So you can do all this. For every second of audio, you can track the person playing, and you can synthesize the accompaniment all in a third of a second for every second of audio that you want to process. The graph on the left is showing our algorithm actually doing the score following. So what's happened here is the notes are being played along the bottom here. This is a self-similarity matrix. So we're playing audio along here, and then the the accompaniment is going down the left here. So the accompaniment knows what you're meant to be playing, and you might be going faster or slower. So if you played it very mechanically at sort of the perfect speed that the music was mathematically written down for, then you'd get a perfect sort of 45-degree line here. So you can see the person playing here was actually quite close to, what the sort of the less expressive way of playing it is. But every time it kind of goes flat, then the accompaniment is having to slow down a bit. Every time it goes steep, it's having to speed up. And that's it working through there. So we haven't got that working in a web browser yet. We haven't got it turning the page for you, scrolling the floor, but we've got to the first step, which is to prove that it can be done, and it can be done with sensible resources. The next stage is to then combine that so the sheet music, when you're playing it, can start a page turn for you. And there's lots of usability issues to think through that we haven't even begun to get into yet, but we've managed to prove. We think this is the world's first. We're going to write this up and send it to the Music Information Retrieval Conference and see how it goes down there. But we think doing this in a web browser, we're the first people to have done that. Okay, here we are back to the sort of anchor slide. Last demo to get into. So we're off to the internet cafe. Again, this is the digital library software, so the interface, it's reminiscent of VH1, a music TV station, in this particular case, matched to their sort of website. And the idea is here, we want to sort of find videos of pop music and sort of have some fun, read some trivia about it, play along. Okay, that's the two kind of elements to it. So for this one here, let's go browsing, shall we, by artist. And my random example that I'll choose is Pompeii by Bastille. So let's hit play and let's at least, and I always forget to do this, I want to see the pop-up trivia. So let's switch on the pop-up trivia. Now these things are going to be too small to read for you. So Bastille is a 4-piece British indie band which was formed in 2010. And what have we got over here? Dan Smith, seen in the opening sequence of the video, is the lead singer, and so it goes on. So yeah, you can sort of have guitar chords come up, lyrics. There's various things that could be sort of popping up and things like this. So this idea started with there was an old TV show called Pop-Up Videos, which was a half-hour show on VH1, and they took the videos and they kind of baked in these pop-ups and just broadcast it as a TV show. So we started by saying, we'd love to do that, only we're going to do it in the digital library, and all these pop-ups are going to be searchable, and you can sort of find things that way. And we're not going to have the idea of you have to be sort of, in the TV station to be allowed to do this. Anyone can register, log in, and start providing this kind of stuff here. So it's kind of a musical YouTube-y kind of idea. So that's the first half. So we've sort of seen pop-ups and things like that. That's not really the bit I wanted to show you. I want to kind of come down a little bit further. I've mentioned playing along. So we've got a piano, for example. Yeah, and in fact, let's go off the piano sound. Let's go organ. Yeah, okay. So we have an organ if you want to try to play along with the organ, with the drums. Oh, let's do cymbal. So, I mean, clearly this is going to work best on a touch screen, but I've got mouse clicking and keyboard Shift B. If you're on a keyboard and have to sort of do it that way. And last but not least, here comes the guitar. So let's give it a chord, and let's. Now I have had people comment that's that's strung as a left-handed guitar, okay? And so it feels a little bit weird, a little bit wrong. I keep meaning to put in a little switch so you can make it go either way. But for right-handed people, we found this is the way that people prefer to have it. Because if you think about playing a guitar as a right-handed people, you do chords with this hand and strum with this hand. So when you're on a touch screen, you want to do the strumming kind of here, which is kind of why you went to show them a left-handed guitar to make it, yeah, okay. Anyway, I really must put the little switch in, and then people can go to whichever version that they like, okay, and things like this. Okay, so let's close that one up here, and let's go back to the beginning. So this game thing that I've alluded to, oh, it's a bit too soon, yeah. So let's come down to here. So I have the video player mode. It's in neutral, and there's something called game on. And for game on is I have melodies and vocals. It's a piano scroll kind of idea. I'll just open up game on. Okay, so this is going to come down the screen heading towards us. These are the notes you're meant to play. Okay, so this is the sort of introduction of the song. Okay, and I'm going to play along on the piano. Okay, all going well. So let's close up some of these. Okay, so I need to play. Now, I'm just going to have a wee little bit of practice. That sounds about right, doesn't it? Okay, so we hit play, Okay? And if you're not playing along, the audio is deliberately made kind of sort of light and quiet. So I'll let one sort of cycle go through so you can sort of hear that it's quieter than last time. And when I play the right notes, it gets louder and better. Yeah, so it's a bit tinny and, yeah. I'm meant to be playing notes, right? So it's, saying, you're not doing a good job, David. So you get the idea, okay? So you play along, you get the reward, it sounds better, and all the rest of it. So, yeah, maybe Mozart after a long day, this could be a fun thing to be doing. Maybe not. I'm not entirely sure I care too much. I do care. I do care. I mean, I do want him to have fun and things like that, because what he's doing is he's secretly helping me get symbolic information for what the songs are. I only started with raw video. I didn't have a clue any of the notes that are being played or the chords or anything. So this idea of kind of experts get reputations, they can post really cool versions of the chords and challenges of notes to play and drums and guitars and all this kind of stuff. So once I get the symbolic information, I can really leverage off that. And for example, here, with automatic analysis, I can find repeated structures. So here I've moved on. This is David Bowie's Starman, and the verse kind of starts twice, and then there's the do-do-do-do-do-do bit, and then this bit in here, there's the chorus with the octave jump that's like somewhere over the rainbow, and so on. Yep, so someone might decide to key that in. How do they key it in? Well, they just press the record button and then play the piano or the guitar. So in the same way I was playing along, if you're logged in, you get a record button, and then you can record yourself playing, and then name it, and there's a little bit of editing, and you can sort of present it for others to try and match what you did. But it's all a bit of a ruse. It's to do with musicology study and getting to the kind of the notes and enriching the set of music information that we have. So we get the note viewer for free. These blue boxes and pink ones, we can do key detection. Now we know the notes. We're no longer thinking about frequencies and trying to, on a good day, maybe work out the key. We really know what notes are being played. So Crum-Hansel's key detection algorithm, if you know the symbolic notes, is the best known algorithm around for doing that. But I always worry about, and what happens if it does go wrong, because it won't get it right every time. So the editability that we support in a digital library is there as well. So it'll pre-populate these things, and then you can look at them and go, you know what, that one, no. And you just fix it, and it gets saved back into the digital library. So this is just another interface through Greenstone to the digital library. So we have two versions of the digital library, the kind of the purple one that you play along with, and then the musicologist is sneakily logging in and visiting this other URL and sort of accessing all the lovely rich information that these other people have provided for them. So wider context, publications. So this is a very new kind of area, transforming musicology. There's been a couple workshops in the last 2 years that we've had work accepted for and published. The main group that started this area of work is at Oxford, and they've asked me to come over later on in the year. I've got study leave, so I'll be visiting them and seeing where they're up to, and we'll sort of work on some collaboration around that. Also stepping outside of the music strand of research for now, but that broader context of digital libraries, we've been looking at editing inside digital libraries, because this is something that a lot of librarians kind of are cautious around. I mean, they've been trained that, you take people who have knowledge about the subject, who then sort of provide metadata, and to simply say, hey, if you can register and log in, you can enter stuff into the digital library, kind of is very much at odds with that kind of thinking. So I think there's a spectrum, and I think it depends on the kind of work that you're doing. And if I had to sort of emphasize a theme in some of this work is we're taking the ideas of digital libraries and the kind of core software components and repurposing them and building other kinds of applications out of them. So that kind of game thing, I mean, if you didn't know it was a digital library, you wouldn't know, you wouldn't care, it wouldn't be relevant. So it's all to do with perhaps enriching some of the functionality that digital libraries provide, and you can sort of start developing and doing more sort of different tasks with the same fundamental ability that was your digital library software. So I'm near the end here. I've just got a couple more slides to go. So rather than a conclusion, this is my first finale. I've never done a finale before, but this is my first finale. So the future of this music information retrieval field is really at multimodal music information retrieval, and this is where you're trying to combine these different representations, sheet music and audio, and looking for ways of connecting the two. So part of the reason why I'm here and giving this talk is if anyone's out there thinking about, I'm thinking of doing a master's or a PhD, this kind of stuff looks interesting. Do come and talk to me. I'd love to discuss some project ideas with you. Okay, so that would be a bonus for me, having had to sort of put this together. A few things to remember. The software, it's all open source. The base systems are Greenstone and Expedite, and they have the obvious domain names that you can go and find. So the content that I'm showing you isn't in them because they're just too big to download, and for music there's copyright concerns. But if you get going with those and want to come back and talk to me some more, I can start showing you where some of the other bits that you add in to start making it a digital music stand or the play-along video stuff. Also, like me, maybe after a couple of days you'll be going, oh, what were the name of those two things David talked about? Oh, I can't remember. So if there are 3 words to remember at the end of the talk, it's my name and the word research. So just go to any search engine, Google on David Bainbridge Research, you get to my home page, it talks about the projects, links to publications, and you can follow up on things from that there. So, my premise. What kind of software would Mozart have on his laptop if he was alive today? Well, I can't really give you any concrete answer. I'm sorry, it's perhaps a little bit of an anticlimax. So I'd like to do something a bit more concrete. This is Howard Goodall. He's a British composer. He's well known for TV work, so for theme songs for TV shows, Mr. Bean, Red Dwarf, Vicar of Dibley, QI, all these songs you might have heard on the telly. He's the composer. And he's written, of the books and television work that he's done, he's written a book, musical Big Bangs, and inside that I found this kind of interesting sort of snippet, which is when he's away from his studio, he said, as long as I have my musical laptop with me, then I'm fine for composing, I can get my work done. So I hope you agree with me that some of the research ideas that I'm working on and presenting here, developed a little bit further, will clearly help support and enrich the kind of tasks that creative people such as composers and musicians do. And I'm hoping that these kind of techniques will help them be sort of even more creative. So, as my final slide, I make it sound like I did all this. I didn't. Bit of help along the way. So it's thanks to a cast of thousands. I know I will have missed out some names. I do apologize. But we're going to wrap things up here. I have one last arrangement to play from Expedite's music thing, but it's 5 minutes long. Okay, so I'm not going to play it now, but maybe when the proceedings are finished, I'll come over and I'll hit play. So when people are sort of heading out and stuff like that, you can get one last blast of music from the talk. And the bar will be open, I believe, and time to chat and mingle. So if you have any questions, do come up and ask me. So that's me. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming along.
It's my task to just sum up now. There was one important name you didn't leave off, David, so I'm glad to see mine's there. So everything else is fine. A few years ago, I just thought I'd mention this, we were on holiday in Vietnam, and we were in a one-bedroomed place, and so you had to wait a bit until everyone passed out in order to go and do your emails, which you weren't really allowed to do, but did anyway. Just to delete the emails that you didn't want to read. And I was doing this at about 10 o'clock, maybe 10, 11 o'clock. And along the way, I sent David an email. Now, the important thing to remember is that Vietnam is 4 to 5 hours behind New Zealand. So if I'm doing that at 10 o'clock, it's 3 in the morning in New Zealand. And I was a little surprised to get a response straight away from David. And so I can appreciate that much of that work, and he didn't cover all of the work he's done over the years he's been with us, was hard-earned. So my sympathies to Annette and the family. Uncle David will be back with you soon, kids. So I think we do have to appreciate all of that. This afternoon I went to another lecture, my own, but given by Bill Rogers, who talked about the 1990s and ubiquitous computing. And this was the idea that computers would be like a servant to you, that you wouldn't know they were there and they would just do things for you. like a butler finding your keys when you can't find them, as the advert displays. And of course, that's never happened. It was one of those ideas that sort of never really took off. And the reason one can think about why that happened, and basically it's because when we interact with computers, we like to be entertained. And so the entertainment factor took over and made sure that we needed to interact. If you go on any bus and look at anybody and what they're doing, even sadly having dinner together, they're all looking at a device and interacting with it. That doesn't apply to me, by the way, because I don't like interacting with any device. So I do think that what David's done is he's hooked into that and extended all of that work in the area of music information retrieval. So clearly, you know that Mozart would carry his laptop into that cafe and use it all day, just as Howard Goodall would. What kind of person would Mozart be? He was probably quite a tricky chap back then, but with a laptop, he'd be spending a lot longer composing those pieces. So I think we'd have more pieces with more notes, probably. A few upset people in charge, and probably a few problems, that the psychologist would have to deal with Mr. Mozart. But generally, I think he'd be pretty happy working away on his machine. So thank you, David. I'd just like to ask everyone to join us afterwards and ask David those questions. Bill wants to know whether the pixels were dry on any of those demos. A reference to them being done today, some of them. And join us to ask questions. And I'd like to finally just ask you to thank David for the marvelous presentation. Thank you very much.